If you have ADHD, being an entrepreneur can be a blessing and a curse. And in today's video, I'm breaking down the 7 traits that I've had to embrace on my journey to becoming a 7-figure entrepreneur. Hey, welcome or welcome back. I'm Christina Scalera, and on this channel, we talk about all things digital products and passive income. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you'll want to hang around for more and catch up on some of our pre-release videos in the past. And if you're new here, you might not know that I have ADHD, and it's something that has really been eye-opening from the perspective of like, oh, why did all that stuff happen? When I finally got diagnosed at the age of 31, it made a lot of sense. It also made me realize that I had special secret superpowers that were helping me on my entrepreneurial journey that had held me back at corporate previously. Specifically, there were 7 things that I really used to help me catapult to success instead of holding me back. And the number one thing that has definitely helped along this path is creativity, but it doesn't look the same way that you would think. Like if you watch a movie and you see a really creative person, usually they're an artist or a singer. They're creative in a really artistic way. And I think that's a very limited definition of creativity. So I am not artistic. I can't sing, but what I can do is come up with really innovative business solutions. And when I was working in corporate, I was constantly what is now dubbed an intrapreneur. Like I was always looking for new solutions. I always thought this has to be like, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better software. We could create a better system. We could do this. We could do that. And that really isn't a trait that a lot of corporate organizations want to embrace or encourage or foster in their ranks. Maybe things have changed. I haven't worked in corporate for about 10 years now, but when I was working in corporate, those types of things were really frowned upon. You were supposed to just like put your head down, get the work done, get it done early, show up to every meeting, all of those kinds of very anti-ADHD traits. So I would say that creativity has definitely been my strong suit. And I think it's a big result of my ADHD brain, just like firing off different connections to different things. I'm also really good at seeing patterns. And when I first graduated from law school, this was really helpful in my job as a trademark attorney because I could see a logo and I would immediately recognize it from something else that I had seen. So I was really good at spotting infringing or potentially infringing logos and slogans because I just could like see these things and make the connection of the patterns that I was envisioning. So another thing that I didn't realize for a long time was super helpful for me. I just thought I had this like cool little thing, this quirk about me that allowed me to hyper focus. Remember, I didn't get diagnosed until many, many years into being an entrepreneur. And so I would find that especially during like critical periods in my business, I was able to like laser focus, zone in on exactly what it was I was supposed to be doing and get that done in like a weekend where previously I hadn't been able to accomplish even a tiny part of it for like the months leading up to that. And I remember this very distinctly in 2017. I was having not my first Black Friday sale, but like one of the first ones. I used to have a shop. I sold it. If you haven't watched that series, you can go back and check that out on my YouTube channel. But basically, this was the first Black Friday that I was not just sending out a couple emails, but I was going hard. Like we were doing a whole like 3-part video series, and there were automations and emails, and there were 4 different intros for the video series because I had this hypothesis that like, they could self-select from a quiz and watch like the video for beginners or like intermediate business owners or more advanced business owners. It was really cool. And then of course I had to A/B split test the beginners. Like it was super extra, but it worked and it was our best sale yet. And of course I grew and built upon that every single year. But that was really complicated. It was very, very difficult and a lot of moving parts. But suddenly it was like, the the Charlie and It's Always Sunny meme where he has the board behind him, like with all the math equations. Like that was how it felt. It all just kind of like coalesced and came together. And I was able to just like focus, hyper focus and pump that out. And I really think that had to do with my ADHD. And even though it's normally an annoying thing because I can't focus, in this moment where I was like, oh crap, I could either like totally fail or I could do really, really well. I chose to do really well, and I chose to just kind of like pump it all out, film all the content, everything, edit it all in a weekend, get the funnel live. It was like insanity, but it got done, and it was just one of many instances in my business that I can remember hyper focusing and getting stuff done in a really short amount of time. So one thing that's like kind of good, kind of annoying about ADHD is I just never know where my energy levels are going to be. And sometimes I have like really high energy levels sales. Things feel really good. I feel really flowy. I'm selling a lot. I'm doing a lot of TikToks. I'm creating a lot of videos. And then other times my energy levels just feel really, really low. And I think that has to do with like more of like the anxiety, depression side of it. But when my ADHD is like popping and the energy is really good, it's super helpful because I'm able to accomplish a lot in a small amount of time. And I really thrive off of having a lot of white space in my calendar. It's something I've covered in previous videos, so I'll try to remember to link to that below. Basically, how I was able to create so much like non-client, non-call time on my calendar to just like focus and succeed in business. That has been really, really helpful, is to have those higher energy levels as a result of creating that white space and just having that time and that focus and that energy when those things are usually a challenge for me, and the white space just allows it to be a little less challenging. So I'm able to have a little bit more energy going into those periods. Like today is a Thursday and I didn't have any client calls. I just had like lots of fun white space where I was creating videos and I felt really creative and I was thinking of funnels and we were improving things. And it was like this really great day full of new growth and new and exciting things where my energy levels were very high because I've created this environment that works for my ADHD. So another thing that has been really helpful is how resilient I think having this has made me. I've had to come up with a lot of my own like self-coping mechanisms. Again, because I was diagnosed so late, I didn't know that I had it. And so for many, many years, I self-medicated with like extra caffeine. And honestly, I still do that to this day because I kept like losing my ADHD prescriptions and I just gave up on those. So I still to this day just try to get as much sleep as possible. I try to exercise every day. Both of those things definitely help. I do try to eat as well as I can, but that's a challenge that maybe I can cover in future videos. And I also try to make sure that I have my coffee a couple times throughout the day. One kind of like cool side effect, I guess, of having ADHD is I can have coffee like I can have coffee until bedtime. It doesn't make me like so awake that I can't fall asleep. In fact, it probably calms me down a little bit. So I know that there's probably a threshold I could cross where I'm waking back up again. I'm not biologically like a mutant or something, but at the same time, I have found that just like, a little cup of coffee after dinner doesn't affect me at all. But back to resilience. Wow. This is like the most ADHD video. It's like the end of the day too. So the resilience that I've had to learn through these self-coping mechanisms has been actually really helpful. So where it was not helpful, definitely not helpful in middle school, high school, grad school, all of those types of things, it was really difficult to get through each of those periods of my life without a lot of anxiety. I didn't have like any healthy coping mechanisms other than like exercise. And even that I kind of took to like the nth degree in college. So I would say that, learning these skills, learning how to be more resilient, learning how to work through my ADHD unmedicated for so many years really helped me to understand what I needed in my life and what I didn't. So it helped me to create boundaries. It helps me to bounce back from anything that is not going as well as I would like it to, because everybody has setbacks in business. And it just really helps me to know that I definitely have something better on the other side. I've gotten through really tough stuff before, and I'll get through whatever this is that I'm facing now too. So the fifth thing that ADHD has gifted me as a 7-figure entrepreneur is adaptability. It has made me so adaptive to my circumstances. And maybe some of this is actually just being an entrepreneur like myself, but I have found that when I was in school, I had to have my books a certain way. I had to write with a certain pen on a certain piece of paper. And if I didn't have that, I had to go to the store and buy those things. Like if I didn't have like the tool pen that writes so smooth on the paper or something, I would just like freak out and I like could not study. I could not work until I had that. It was a very rigid, difficult way to live. And I think some of that was just like coping with like the extreme stress of school. But at the same time, since then, I can work from anywhere. And I literally have worked from anywhere, whether it's like a tiny little minimum tray on Frontiers, like it's not even a tray, or a messy desk, or a room full of screaming children, or Disney World, or whatever. I have worked in some really strange places, and I've definitely gotten over my like thing about pens and what I need to write. Like the perfectionism is just gone. And so I think that's part of the ADHD thing where I've learned how to adapt and become just okay with things going outside of my control, not really being something that I would have chosen for myself, and then adapting to those situations so that I can get the work that I need to do done regardless of what my circumstances are around me. Number 6 is a little bit controversial, I think, because a lot of people will say this doesn't exist, but my multitasking. So I have found that I am like supremely efficient at getting stuff done, especially like when it's multiple things or like layered tasks, like you need to do this in order to do that. And one has to happen before the other. I'm just really, really good at like getting all that done in a very short amount of time. I can kind of like see how things can be done the most efficient way. And I just jump right on that. So I do think that with ADHD, listening to music and working is actually more helpful for me. I find that I focus a lot more, especially if it's music that I am unfamiliar with. And that has always proven true. Like the only time I could ever study in school, no matter what, like middle school, high school, grad school, whatever, I had to have music on and I had to make sure that it was like music I hadn't heard before. So it was usually classical music. So I'm not like, I like classical music, but I don't know anything about it. So I would just put on like random classical music and hopefully I hadn't heard it so that I wouldn't get back into like some kind of loop or pattern or like anticipate what the next, I don't even know anything about music, like the next frame, I don't know. But I do think that with ADHD, it's important to recognize like where you can multitask and jump on that, because if you can get more done in a more efficient way and in less time, then you just have more time to do the things that you want to do, like going for a hike or drinking a glass of wine at night or whatever. Can you tell it's like literally the end of the day? I'm like looking at like wine and like the hike, it's all in sight. Not at the same time. So then finally, the most important thing that ADHD has gifted me is an entrepreneurial passion. When I was back in corporate, right, like I told you about the entrepreneur experience, but I also had many, many hours at that desk just without even, like I couldn't even help it. I was thinking about all the other things that I could do with my time. I was like, I could start this business and I could start that business. I'd never started a business before. So there was like no part of me that had any business thinking I should start a business, but I did. And I thought about like, oh, I could start this like jewelry business. I could start this yoga business. I could start this. I could do that. This is really inefficient. I could just do this. And so I think combined with everything else that I've discussed here today, more than anything, it's probably my ADHD that one, keeps me unemployable, but also two, gives me the gift of entrepreneurship and the passion to do that and to work for myself and to see what solutions are available in a more creative way for not just my business, but also my life. So I hope you can see how your ADHD can actually help you a lot, especially if you are an entrepreneur or thinking about starting your own business. And of course, if you want extra support with your ADHD, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, this is just my experience, but there's many, many professionals out there who can support you and can help you in a more healthful way if you feel like some of the patterns or behaviors that you're experiencing aren't good for you. I have lots of other content on this channel all about what it's been like to work through my ADHD and other things that I've found helpful as someone who works for themselves with ADHD. So if you want more productivity tips or you just want to see more about how I run a business with ADHD, you'll want to check those videos out. Make sure that you like this one so I know this was a good topic for you and that you're subscribed, because it makes a huge difference in the YouTube algorithm and it really helps these videos to get shown out to even more people. And honestly, I don't ask for anything in return except for the like and the subscribe. That would mean so much to me. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone.